Hello, my Hope More family. I am just so happy that you all joined me for my second reunion for the month of June, which, I've sort of coined this phrase to mean reunions in June because it's something refreshing like a pitcher of orange infused water when you get to reunions, right? How many of you guys have gone to reunions so far? I know me, I had a 25th silver anniversary with my class of Spelman, class of 1996, and I was supposed to have a DIMS reunion, my dad's side, on July. That's not happening because of the COVID changes, but I love getting together, and I'm excited about this, my second episode in June regarding reunions. And it's interesting. I didn't want to do just any old reunions or just sometimes commonplace reunions that are important, but we hear about those all the time. And so I really have been digging in my trove of things to think about people that I wanted to connect with that I have not seen in years or in a long time, and whatever reason they have impacted my life, and I would love to reconnect with them. Because the one thing I love about reunions, and the only thing I like about reunions, if the people are authentic, you really learn a lot about yourself, because in some ways they're your contemporaries, right? Who I went to college with, we probably have some similar life changes, and in places where we're different, it's sort of cool to like compare and contrast, but understand in the best ways, not competitively, but in the sense of sometimes you have grown a little bit more than you thought you did. And then in other ways, you're like, oh, you know what? I could be a grandmother right now. I've never thought about that. But now I met a classmate who has grandkids. So I'm like, wow, what would I be like as a grandparent? Or, just the idea of getting together and being real with people and finding out, like, even though you may not talk to them again for another 10 years, or maybe you won't talk to them ever, but you find out where they are in life and you celebrate with them. And in cases where it's a mournful situation, like even going to a funeral, you mourn with them and you grieve with them because you've had shared life experiences that somehow has connected you. So guys, I need you all to help me, especially during this month. This summer, I'm trying to increase my page likes on Facebook page, as well as my subscribers on YouTube. My YouTube channel is like my little redhead stepchild. I've not paid any attention to it, almost like a backup to this particular page. But Hope More YouTube channel and Hope More Facebook page, I need you to like, subscribe, hit the bell in the YouTube channel and become a subscriber. And hitting the bell will allow you to know when I come on live. So listen, do what I'm about to do right now. I have to do this at the beginning of every show because I'm the production of one. I'm gonna have to turn down my volume so I don't irritate you. I'm going to go to my Hope More page, and Hope More is always spelled lowercase HOPE, uppercase MORE, because you only really need a little bit of hope in life to expect more. It is when people lose hope that really they're sort of at the end of themselves, because hope, unlike faith, doesn't have to be the strongest of strong, right? You may be looking for evidence. You may want to see it before you believe it, but hope gives you like that little crack of light that says more is possible. So go to HOPE, lowercase, MORE, uppercase, Facebook page, or the same description on the YouTube channel, and make sure you like. Okay, I think one of my first guests is bringing in. So go ahead and share and like. Hey,
click the link.
It wouldn't let you?
Oh, it's a text. I'm trying to click the link and all that.
Okay, hold on. Let me see why that is.
I'm only doing this for you.
I do, and I'm on live right now. So what I'm going to do. No, I appreciate it. Hey, don't hang up. You guys, we are so excited about the people who are coming on the show today. So, my people dealing with their people, which is really like just a spiritual fake fictional people, because I have no people. What I'm going to do, guys, is go ahead and make sure you guys come onto the show, share this page, share it on your personal social media page, share it with a group so other people can join on, because I believe this conversation this reunion is going to actually give a lot of insight to how there are extraordinary people in horrible circumstances and that have been impacted by what people have and have not done in their lives. So I'm going to share, and then I may start off with one of my first clients and have to pop back on, but hold on. All right, I'm sharing it because sometimes I tell you guys to share and it's nowhere to be seen on my personal page. All right. Yes. Posted is done. Okay. So you guys, I want to introduce one of my clients. I'm dealing with Corey and Charles. Corey and Charles are two clients that I represented years ago. And when I dealt with them, they were in a different place in their life. But Corey was the baby of the two, and they were at different years, but quite a bit of time ago. So I want to bring on Corey's story. But you know what? This is live TV. So I'm going to also maybe change up some things because I want to make sure that both Corey and Charles get a chance to be on here. I think I may go ahead and talk about, before I bring on my extraordinary clients, maybe this is a great time to introduce to you two extraordinary heroes of mine. Many of you may or may not know, I've been practicing law for like 22 years. And as a criminal defense attorney, for a majority of those times, I had also worked several years in the serious felony division of the Metro Conflict Defender's Office in Atlanta, Georgia. And that's basically an offshoot of the public defender system in Georgia. And this is where I met my clients, Corey and Charles. They didn't get to choose me, but I believe we were divinely put together. But there are a group of people called Vision Unlimited, or Visions, Vision Peace Center founder and her son, who really came up the rear to help me see that there was a better tomorrow for a number of people who found themselves in this prison pipeline, and they have a remarkable story. Miss Sands is the founder of Vision Unlimited. She also is an educator. I always call her Miss Sands because I have so much respect for her. Her son is an entrepreneur. He works in real estate. He's a new author. And I was just going to have them introduce themselves and come on, because I think foundationally it's great to hear what inspired this opportunity for them to come together and work with attorneys like me to help keep our kids out of prison. And then we're going to bring on our first client. So I'm going to present to you Miss Sands and Leonard Dungee. Thank you all for being on. I know I sort of switched gears real quick. I'm going to get our first client on so he can tap in. But if you would not mind, and I don't know who to start with first, but if I know, age and beauty over everything else. Miss Sands, if you wouldn't mind, introduce yourself to my Hope More family, and then your son, Leonard Dungee, will bring it up the rear. And I'll be right back.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. I'm Gwen Sands. I am a woman of faith and a retired educator. Our vision was born because one wonderful Mother's Day, my darling son, who you see either to the right or left, you to my right, called me and said, Happy Mother's Day. And the next thing out of his mouth was, please come get me out of jail. I said, what? He said, please come get me out of jail. Well, after going through all of the seasons of grief and shock and whatever, we finally connected, contacted his father. Now, mind you, Mr. Dungee is a phenomenal young man. At that time, he was in college at Hampton University. Our family is a family that has entrepreneurs, educators, and would you believe it, judges. And so for my son to say to us, Happy Mother's Day, come get me out of prison, was a shock to us. And of course, I drove around Richmond, Virginia at that time and saying, what in the world did I do? What in the world did I do wrong? How could I have prevented this? Crying. And that my sister, who is a judge, said, Gwen, stop it. She just said, stop it. And so and then we went about the process of supporting him. Now, Visions was formed because we shared as if this could happen to our family, and Leonard, we had all of the support you could imagine. And if this could happen to us, what happens when the family doesn't have that level of support? And that's how Visions was born. We work with young people, and I'll let Leonard. He tells the vision story much better than I do. It's still a God assignment. I was redirected to Atlanta, trained to be a superintendent. God redirected me to Atlanta to work with Head Start and some other nonprofit organizations, and finally to form Visions. And so I'm going to turn it over to Leonard, because he's a phenomenal testimony as to what love and protection, evidence-based strategies, science and heart together can do.
Well, thanks, Mara. And I do want to add that Mother's Day thing is just, in fact, a bad timing. But I guess it was for a purpose. And but just to kind of take the story from there, I guess in 2003, I was convicted of fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy to traffic several pounds of marijuana and several kilos of cocaine. But what happened was fought the case as much as possible, took credit for what I did, and went on to do my time. But during that time was a period for me where I was actually able to get to know myself as a person, get to know who I was. And over that time, I helped over 400 inmates get their GED. I worked along with other prison, mentors to help resolve conflict on the yard. And when I got home, when I was released from prison, we just proceeded to do it on the streets of Atlanta. And I guess Visions, when I first was released, Mom had already established an incredible team. And we just went from there. We were in Bowen Homes. We were partnered with the AHA authorities. So we started in Bowen Homes, Bankhead Courts, Hollywood Courts, Herndon Homes, Central Methodist, and very Polo. There was several other neighborhoods that we were involved in and providing services and hope. And so it's just carried on to this day. Yes, it's carried on to this day.
Leonard, I can tell that you are so far past the crazy trauma of having served time, because you just spilled that out like, okay, money, blah, 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 blah. I did my time. And although you were forever impacted by it, and thank you both for sharing, I have always been amazed that Vision Unlimited, the type of services you provide are so sort of wrapped around and holistic. And I know different times, different programs stand out or different programs are available. I know you've done stuff in the arts with kids. I know, and I keep saying kids, younger people, young adults. I know at one point there was like a mentoring of parents, and they could come, what's it called, wings? The parents would meet up and the families. And, and I remember hearing stories about Dash, may he rest in peace, and different mentors who had served time, like Mr. Dungee, who were like trying to save particularly our young Black boys, and getting up in their grill, getting personal, finding where they are in a way that a probation officer really doesn't have the time or the call. That's not their purpose necessarily. And in a way, like, oh my gosh, this is the family. These are the men often that these guys have not had, or maybe they did have and they ignored it. But I just love that passion. So when I met your mom and I heard about Vision Unlimited as a conflict defender in Atlanta, I'm like, oh my goodness, this needs to be all over the United States, because I was under the misconception that after practicing in rural Georgia, where many times my clientele was predominantly white, and when I worked in conflict defender's office or public defender's office, they're often poor, right? Or they are poor, they're indigent. I expected that when I came to Chocolate City, And there's more Black judges, more Black law enforcement, more Black prosecutors, that when it came to understanding sort of like what the negative impact is by over sentencing youthful offenders, or, you know, basically putting them in prison and throwing away the key and not caring about how it affects a family financially. You know, I expected that people who look like me may be more compassionate to some people who, based on money and maybe a lack of mentorship, make really stupid decisions at young ages, but they can be redeemed. And sadly enough, I did not find that to be the case in Atlanta. I'm not saying it didn't have differences, and I'm not saying even as a criticism, but it just wasn't really all that different. And so I was looking towards organizations like yours, the few and far between, to try to like hold them up as standards. Like, if I can get my guys or my clients, often were men, if I can get them in Vision Unlimited, they will be changed. They will do what the criminal justice can't do, which is true rehabilitation. And I was just like, yes, Miss Sands, go with me on this. Go with me on this. And we're getting shout outs. Candace Dungee. Oh, that's
Mr. Dungee's older sister.
Oh, wow. Yes, he is living his purpose.
I don't know where he went, but he was at at the restaurant. So you'll probably be coming back on. There he comes.
Oh, wow.
Did you see Candace?
Yeah. Like, sometimes I just play around with camera angles just to keep it interesting. But I'm liking all this. Ooh.
That's okay. I'm fine. I'm fine. Mr. Dungee has an incredible story.
No problem. Okay. So, although I didn't represent you, Mr. Dungee, do you have, because, you know, I called you savvy, well-educated, financially, you know, sound. You didn't have the story of, I'm down and out. My mom is on drugs. I don't have nobody taking care of me. I had no mentorship. You didn't have that story. So now that you work in a community where a lot of your clients have that kind of background, and you think about what you sort of gave up or didn't think about maybe as much as you could have valued, like, what do you think your story to them is, or to some of those young men, when it relates to, it's not about just you not having to make these bad decisions, because you can have and still make bad decisions.
Right. It was, it was a different time, first of all. You know, it was the 80s and 90s, and cocaine and crack. I could literally make more money selling that and dealing that than I could on Wall Street. I mean, it was strictly economic.
Yep.
In the 80s and 90s, you can make more money selling crack and cocaine than on Wall Street. That's really amazing to me.
Well, first of all, cocaine in the beginning, it wasn't affordable to everyone. So, I mean, the stockbrokers and doctors and lawyers who I grew, you know, friends of mine or whatever, that's who was buying it. It wasn't until the late 80s and early 90s where crack really took it to the neighborhood. Now, let's get something straight. Even though, I never, it was totally by the choice. But you have to remember, my mom, I was also an athlete. And so my mom moved, she moved us way outside of Richmond, Virginia. But my dad still lived in the inner city. So when I was at my dad's house, I was still in the inner city. And so, and plus, let's get this straight, and nothing against Hampton University, but a lot of my friends that I met with, they were at Hampton were, also doing the same thing. So it wasn't like, it was just a different time. I think the problem today is the youth are still trying to duplicate that, but the money's just not there. So, I mean, for instance, we have water boys. I'm gonna give you an example. We have water boys in Atlanta. The water boys hang out on the corner and they try and sell water for $1 a piece. It's the same thing that the kids were doing back in the 80s and 90s. They were just selling crack. And the difference is with crack, they were taking $30 and $40 and $50 at a time, as opposed to $1 for a bottle of water. And so when they try and duplicate that kind of, economic structure, it's just not going to work. And so this is when, disparity remains, and that's what leads to more and more violent crime. That's just what Atlanta's going through right now. It's just, have and the have-nots. And so, that's what we're dealing with.
No,
But,
I understand. Yeah.
And yeah, also during that time, I mean, I had several, in Virginia, we didn't have gangs, and especially in Richmond, you were east side, north side, west side, or the south side. But, a lot of the people that I met just in my travels, being in Hampton, what it did was it made me much more well-traveled. I got to see other places, Los Angeles, New York, different cities. And so with those friends I had there, the friends in LA, they were doing LA stuff. And so, but they were gangbanging. But I wasn't in the gang, but I still had respect because, I was economically, let's just say having me around.
You were benefiting, yes.
Exactly. I was good. I can count money, just to put it that way. So, and then that's how I kind of got my street credibility through those ties in college and in late high school.
Okay, so you were definitely doing that code switching. You knew how to be with the educated, talented 10th N.E.W. Du Bois fan of Black, excellence and upper mobility, but you also knew how to hang out in the hood and respect the leaders, regardless if they were drug dealers or gangbangers, the leaders, and you were able to fuse those together and for a short time make some major money off of it.
Right. I mean, it's really, in our work now, it's really been a benefit because I have gang ties across different gangs in different sets. So, I've always, even in the past, I've always been a mediator a lot of times because I love all of them the same. They are my brothers. We were here to make money. We're not here to make videos and make memes. That's just the attitude back then. So, but yeah, that's helped me today in being able to mediate gang situations, just because of those ties.
So your experience now is not necessarily with those people making money, but it's like they respect you enough that if there's some violence going on, because I know that's a part of your heartbeat, stopping violence, that you actually may receive from you, as well as when you're talking, I'm sure from every kid from the hood to, the top talented Black people who are upwardly mobile or non-Black people, you pretty much have a story that you can relate to both of those sides in your work.
Let me say this, and I hope everyone takes this properly, but I've met just as many gangsters in corporate America than I have in the street. So believe that too. So
I believe that.
Please believe that. So, we work in the same courthouse. I already know. So you already know.
That's a whole other show.
That's a whole other show, right? We want to get a Rico on for that show. Yeah.
That's a whole nother show, but I'm glad you mentioned that. And even though this is not the flow I had planned to start with you guys first, but I'm glad you mentioned that because I think what people need to understand is that people hear prison, they hear the word incarceration, they hear the word crime, they maybe hear words that scare them like murder and armed robbery. Understand, and this statistic was a few years ago, so it's probably even worse. Only 25% of all crimes are solved. That means a lot of people, more people than not, are not having any accountability to the crime that they're doing. We know what communities are over-policed, so we understand, and I say we, I'm saying collectively we, there are reasons why the gangsters and the criminals and thugs that maybe live in certain neighborhoods or deal in a certain way or look a certain way are overpopulating these prisons. It's not that these crimes are not happening in more affluent areas or in areas that don't look quite like us, but there's just another reason why those particular crimes may go unsolved or just deal with differently. And so I'm glad you said that. So when I say extraordinary clients after incarceration, some people think that's an oxymoron, but the truth of it is, just like there are amazing creeps who may, according to accusations, committed felonies, making it into the Senate, Congress, and the White House, you have some presidential, congressional style thinkers, designers, entrepreneurs who are somewhere languishing behind bars. Like those two coexist, and they're extraordinary in both ways. And so, oh man, someone has a question for you. And after you answer this question, then I'm gonna bring on my particular client, or I may start off with showing a little bit about your interaction with someone named Corey White.
Oh,
but this question
awesome.
is a good one. Was it an easy transition from a prison? Ulysses asked.
Yes and no. What's easy, there's nothing really easy about it. It's easier if you have a support system. You know, there's a lot of people that getting out of prison that don't have a support system when they get out. So all they know is to do or is to survive. And that usually, most of the time, lands them back in prison. But if you have a good support system, that's the key, because even now, I mean, it doesn't matter. I'm proof that, that even you can get back on your feet after prison, but you still can't get an apartment, and you still can't get a job, and you still can't, you can learn how to do construction, but you can't get your GC's license because your general contractor's license, because you don't have, because you have felonies. And so that's how it affects you more so than the actual, I guess, transition back into day-to-day life. That usually happens over about a week to you're pretty much back to
so it is
life.
True to, it is true to say that the support system you have waiting for you is almost more important than the crime or whatever they're accused you of to put you behind in the first place. Because I've always thought, I have a cousin, or a person like a cousin to me. He was best friends with my brother. He served time for a murder. It was really unfortunate because his cousin was a person who died, who was trying to stop him from shooting someone else. So the parents, the aunts, everyone was pleading for grace. He did 13 years. But when he got out, soon after, he married someone who was stable. Soon after, he got a job. And people would think, oh, maybe this person went to jail for drugs, maybe young drug dealer, not as sophisticated as Mr. Dungee's operation. And this guy had murder. Of course, the murderer is going to be recidivist. The murderer is going to, he is like a shining example. But without saying names or much more, there's certain, like, he was working up in his company that was a, blue collar company, but he could not become manager because of insurance. The particular business they could not have someone with a felony in that position. So he's like this basically unofficial supervisor. So I'm like, well, thankfully he had a stable home to go to. And now he has someone helping to be accountable. But that's a real life situation transitioning. Thankfully, you had the smarts and the support on the outside, and you all as Vision Unlimited give support to others that are on the outside. So I didn't start off my relationship with Ms. Sands with this one client named Corey White, and I'm going to bring him on, and I'm going to have you guys watch for a little bit. Corey hopefully will join us a little bit later live, but today I got to talk to him and pre-record a little bit because the boy is out of prison and he's working. So let's give that a hand. Yay! He's out of prison and he's working, and I won't say how long he's been out, but it's not been yet a year, and he is doing what he needs to do. So I'm going to just jet into a conversation that he and I had, and we're going to talk about Corey, because Corey he had an opportunity to work in Vision Unlimited, and I may have you guys watch and comment and come back. We're not going to see the whole thing all in one part, but I don't know where it stopped, but I'm just going to by faith. And you live with your mom, your siblings? Like, did you grow up by yourself? Huh?
I'm talking about growing up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, growing up. Majority of the time, majority of my whole life, I stayed with my grandmother.
Okay, you stayed with your grandmother. Where was your mom?
She was in East Point. She was in and out of my life.
Okay. How about your dad?
My dad, he disappeared out of my life like a long time ago. But like he's back in my life right now. And like we working on the father and son relationship. Yeah. In a positive way.
So you're gonna have a good Father's Day. Even if y'all don't get connected, but I'm glad to hear that you and your dad have reconnected. But growing up, he wasn't really around that much. And neither was your mom. And
Nah.
so how about brothers and sisters? Did you have brothers and sisters, or did you grow up with some cousins that lived in the house?
Oh no, I grew up with my sisters. I had 3 sisters. I'm the only boy. So I grew up with my sisters.
So were you a little spoiled? Not really?
No, not really. Nah, not really.
So your grandmother, bless her heart, she was raising you guys, and you graduated high school. And I'm just wondering, when you were in high school, did you see any of your friends getting in trouble or people you knew? And what did you think about it at the time, just on the outside looking in?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, going through school, you know, everybody has their different parts in life where they're curious to try this and try that. So in school, yeah, I seen a couple of guys get locked up. Like in school, like it was like 4 or 5 guys on one case got like 10 years for armed robbery.
And you were aware of that in high school.
Yeah.
You were aware of that.
Yeah. Wow. And I was like, dog. But I used to always say, only crazy folks smoke, only crazy people go to jail, only crazy people do this. And I'm like, nah, I'd never do that. But
wow. So in high school, you would see that, you were even aware that they were getting serious time even as kids. And you're like, you know what, they just crazy folks. Did your grandma have you like doing anything like sports or band? Like, how is it that you were not involved with that? Was it just because you're like, listen, I'm not interested?
It was like growing up and like even through high school, middle school, I always did sports for the most part. But as I got older, I started growing out of sports. Like to this day now, I still like to play sports. It's just having the time to play it. But back then, I mainly stayed out of trouble. Like my uncle and my grandma, like if I get in trouble somewhere, like at school or anything, they'll call my grandma. My grandma called my uncle. And like my uncle really like he really liked my dad. He really like to play dad to me. Cause back then he didn't have any kids, so I was always with him most of the time anyway. And it's like
so you played sports. Go ahead.
Like when I was younger and stuff, like I always got in trouble. They might call my grandma. Sometimes she'd call my coach though for football. So you know that's extra workouts and stuff for football and stuff. I'm not trying to do all that. So like, I'm just gonna be good. I ain't gotta be in the bullpen. I gotta take all these tackles and stuff. So it's like, all right. But as I got older, like, you know, as you grow older, like, you know, as a kid, your parents are always telling you, y'all act like money grow on trees. Cause we always, when we need money, we always want money to do different things. And as you get older, it's gonna be more things that you want to do. So it's like, as I got older, I kind of wanted more in life. And like, you got to have an income to get money, or you got to have a hustle or anything to bring the money in. So then when you start just experimenting on different ways to touch the money, somewhat legal, somewhat illegal, but it all depends on what you want to do. And sometimes it be bad decisions.
Okay. And I know some of my audience are probably like, is he laughing? Is he smiling? He smiles all the time. He smiles when he's nervous. He smiles when he's angry. He smiles when he's happy. So just understand he knows. Yeah, am I right? You're not necessarily
you're right.
thinking it's funny, but looking back,
no.
Yeah, looking back, you were like, you know, involved with a lot of things. And the reason why I'm even asking, what were you thinking before this happened? Because so many times people, like I said, glamorize crime. They don't think of it as glamorization, but it no longer scares them. Like you said, you think, oh, that's stupid. They crazy. But then as you got older and saw and was exposed to more, you're like, oh, well, you know, I could try that as well. And I'm just wondering, especially now that we're in graduation season, all these kids are graduating high school and different people are like, oh, I'm going to college, I'm going to the military. When you were a senior in high school about to graduate, what were your plans? Did you have any?
I can't say I had any plans. Like when I graduated, my grandma told me to either go to college or either go to the military or something. But like 12th grade, like 12th grade, I went to Tri-Cities on 9th through 11th grade. And
That's
I
a
ended up
hot
getting
time.
I ended up getting behind and stuff, like with the women and different things. So I had to go to Frank McLaren alternative school so I could catch up on my credits and stuff so I can graduate on time. And like when she taught me go to college or either go to the military, I'm like, grandma, like I ain't even want to do these 12 years I just did. And the military, like I'm not going to die for Uncle Sam. I don't know him. So it's like I didn't know, but if I knew where I would end up doing those 10 years, I would did the 10 in college. I would did that 10 in the military. I would did that 10 anywhere else except for that.
No, it's interesting when you said I did those 12 years. You talking about school like it was prison, but for 12 years you had to go in a place that you didn't ask to go and you didn't want to necessarily be there, but you did what you had to do to get out. And I can understand, I mean, for a lot of people, not just you, college or the military is not attractive in any of those ways, right? So, do you think, or being honest, back in that time, were you like, okay, did you think like, okay, I'm gonna go get a job? Or at that time, were you already sort of thinking of ways that you could just make sure you got income coming in regardless of how you were doing it?
Like before, back then, before like I had caught this case, like, I had one job. That was like, I want to say 06 or 07. I can't remember for sure. I worked at Wayfield, and like I had got fired for like no call, no show. And after that, I couldn't get a job. But I'm not gonna say I couldn't. I tried, but I was always turned down, and I didn't know the other routes to take to get a job legally. And like I didn't have the revenues and the resources that I have now to find jobs. And like so I started cutting grass and stuff. But it got tiring. You feel what I'm saying? When it rained, you can't make no money cutting grass, raking no leaves, doing line service, period. So, I started trying other things that you can do in the rain, while it's snowing, raining, sunny day, you feel me? But it just, I experimented with things I just shouldn't have tried, really.
Did you think about the fact that you already knew that people you knew that went to prison for doing some of the stuff you may have been interested in doing? Did you ever think about that? Was that ever like a worry for you?
I'm not gonna say it was a worry because I think you only worry about things that you know that can happen. And like if you never been locked up or never been to prison, like you don't know it can happen to you. You feel what I'm saying? Like
okay.
So it's like, nah, I didn't think about it. And the average person gonna tell you, nah, I ain't gonna get caught no way. We hope we don't get caught.
Because those are the crazy people, right? The crazy people get caught. The crazy people. I get you.
And
I understand.
at the time, I wasn't one of the crazy people because I never got caught. But the day I got caught, I became one of the crazy persons, though.
Yeah. Let's go back to that time, and I'm just gonna go forward. Thank you for sharing, because I don't think I ever asked, or I may have asked back when I represented you, but I wasn't familiar with where your mom or dad was. But I think it's remarkable that you had a father figure in your uncle, and your grandma did the best she could, and whatever she did made you feel strong enough to like, okay, I may have messed up on my grades, but I'm gonna graduate, so let me go ahead and get these credits. So you had a good shoulder in your head. You had people who loved you, right? But your 19-year-old mind was still like, doing and thinking a lot of things. And what's amazing, I don't know if you heard about the fact that most people, especially boys or males, their frontal lobe, which deals with consequences, is not even fully formed until they're like 25. So that's why when it comes to like, say, children soldiers, boy soldiers, they're some of the fiercest because they are not thinking about consequences in a way that a 28 or 30-year-old soldier in the army would think. So boy soldiers in like a lot of these third world countries, they're some of the most ruthless because they're not thinking. So the fact that you at 19 may not have been thinking about your consequences or thinking that you could get in trouble made sense. So here you are now behind bars at 19. You meet you because I think you had another. Did you have some other attorneys before me? No.
I think no, you were my first and only one.
I didn't know that. I'm so used to like having been people like been giving other people a hard time. So you end up being in jail for about 14 months. And in that time, we were trying to get you bonded out. We were trying to do so many things. And the biggest thing I was concerned about was that you were so mannerable and just so nice. And I was just like, why? This guy is so, I'm sorry, no offense, but being so stupid. I'm like, should this decision change the rest of his life? And I met this woman named Gwen Sands, and she's going to be on the show. And she has this organization called Vision Unlimited. And although it was not necessarily attached to the court system, the sort of like services of mentorship and GED preparation and just, I don't know, she has a grandma nature to all kids that I was like, if I could get more of my clients in a program like that, maybe they'll be successful and never have to go to prison. And you're the first client that I had placed there that was dealing with a mandatory minimum of 10 years in prison. Everybody else, maybe they could have gotten a year in prison, but we finally got you into that program and it was tough. Could you tell me how you felt like after being there for 14 months in jail that you may have an opportunity to get out before your trial or get out for some time to prove that you can be responsible? How did you feel when you, after 14 months hearing that?
Like, I felt grateful. And it really was, I say breathtaking. Cause like 14 months and locked up is like a long time. And like, you know how it be hot outside and you come back in and you get you a big cup of Kool-Aid and it quench your thirst. I felt like my thirst was quenched that day. And like, I was very happy for that opportunity. I really was.
You know what, man? Like, in talking to you and some other young offenders and, you know, just saying like, you know, you're facing this amount of time. When you heard that the minimum time in jail you had before you was 10 years, did you even like how did you understand 10 years would look like? Did that, like, now looking back, do you think you even understood what type of time that was?
At the time, I didn't. I really didn't. Like 10 years, like that's a whole decade. Like in my mind the whole time, I was like, yeah, my first offense. Like, you gonna give me 10 years? 10, like, for my first time. Oh, I ain't never been a juvenile, no nothing. And you really gonna give me 10 years? Like, I couldn't see it. But I had to deal with it for the simple fact. Once them handcuffs get placed on you, you on somebody else's time. Your faith is determined by somebody else then. So it's like, all you can do is keep a sane mind and go with the flow and do what you can. So it's like, I couldn't see that 10 at first.
Well, let me tell you, I was trying to find the prosecutor on your case, Eddie Chase. I don't know if you remember him, short little white guy. And Eddie is a great prosecutor, but he could not get permission from his supervisor to even consider reducing the armed robbery. That was the only way I could get potentially something that wasn't 10 years in prison. And I was going back through old emails, Corey, and I saw how I was like arguing, like literally he went up. He was like, what about 15 years to serve? Like his supervisor was pushing him to go up. And I was just like, I had this one email like, are you kidding me? Exclamation. And I was like, listen, you know, go over her, go to Paul Howard. And Paul Howard, for those of you who don't know, he was like the district attorney of Atlanta for like over 25 years, maybe 29 years even. And he was hard-nosed. And Eddie's like, in order for this to work, you're gonna have to go talk to him. And if anyone knows Atlanta, you rarely get to go talk to Paul Howard as defense. He has all these minions. And I remember sitting across the table and I was like, my client graduated, my client, like I was just like, he could do anything and you're just gonna take 10 years of his life, he'll never be the same. I think he said yes just to get me out of his office, because I was sort of like, you got to not put another young Black man down the road, and this kid has no record, no history. Let's give him a chance. And if he messes up, he messes up. In my mind, messing up was going out robbing. But he ended up making the conditions of this pretrial release a condition of them considering to reduce your charges so that you may be able to stay out of prison. But he had different stipulations, including the fact that he actually ended up offering to all of the 3 boys, and I say boys because y'all were teenagers when you did it, if you completed Vision Unlimited and did not get in trouble, that you would possibly have a reduced sentence and wouldn't have to go to prison. But if any of you disobeyed in any kind of way, got in trouble, he was taking away from all of y'all. And I was like, that's not fair. You know, Corey, I was worried not about you. I was worried about all the knuckleheads that were your co-defendants, because they've been to juvie. One of them already been in trouble during his bond time, because wasn't one of them out? One of them wasn't in jail at first, right? Yeah. So I was just like, my guy, he's exemplary. He's gonna get out there, and I'm not gonna worry about him. I'm worried about these other knuckleheads. And so your breath of relief when you got to get out, I never even asked you, where'd you go live when you got out? Did you go back to your grandma's house?
Yeah, I did. I had to remember. It's been a long time. Yeah, I went to my grandmother's house.
You went to your grandma's house, and yeah. you tell me about your experience with Vision Unlimited when you first started going.
Vision Unlimited. All right. Just the name by itself, like Visions Unlimited. Like your visions are unlimited. Like you can do anything you want to do, as long as you can see it. Like Visions were lit though. Like from all the mentors to some of the students and stuff. Like it was lit. It was like a program that's worth going to. Like you can relate to it for the simple fact, like I was locked up for armed robbery. I can't sit there and listen to someone who was locked up for like soliciting or something, like jaywalking or something. Like you can't tell me about something that you haven't been through. And like with Visions, like everyone, like the mentors that was there, like these folks that have been through what we could possibly finna go through. So why can't we relate to these people? And it was just like it was life changing as well though, cause like, as long as you would have sat there and listened, you would have got what you came for. You would have chosen to make better decisions. Like Miss Sands, or R.I.P. to Mr. Dash, like Miss Lasagna, like Mr. all them people.
Yes.
Yeah, that my man's down. I miss that man. Like for real, I miss that man. But like Vision was good. Like it really was. But I really can't say nothing bad about Visions, period, like at all.
And you were a standout, because what was interesting, all the other clients I had that were young that I asked to be able to go to this program, none of them had their GED. So even if they were like 20, they didn't have they were way behind. And so one of their biggest components was getting people a GED. This Negro already had his high school diploma. Didn't they put you on tutoring duty? You were helping people get their GED? You remember that?
I don't. It's been a minute. I don't. I think a person mind can only remember so much, but some people remember everything. I don't.
Well, I can tell you that I was so impressed with that, because it's like, yes, you needed, in my opinion, and and from your own admission, you needed to be around people who you would respect, who cared about you, but also was trying to show you like a better way. And I think you, for me anyway, it seemed like when you're helping people, you really like this amazing part of you comes out that like usually impresses everybody. And I don't let Miss Sands and Leonard Dungee like, you know, brag on you, but they were like, you were a role model to a lot of the kids. And actually, even though, as hinted in my ad, even though you end up spending time in prison, even in coming out, you know, you still have been a role model. And I don't know, does that surprise you?
It does a little bit. It does a little bit.
Why? Wow. I'm going to do an extended version of his interviews because I've had 2 of them, and I didn't have a chance to edit it all down, but I didn't want to miss his singing praises of Vision Unlimited. And my next client is ready to come in and talk, and I know I got some hard gotta goes, but you know, as I said in the ad, he ended up having to do time. He did well in the program. He broke his curfew. The police came around. He ran from the police. We won't get into why he made him run from the police, but they only charged him with misdemeanor obstruction.
Yeah. But see, the thing about that, Hope, though, I didn't mean to interrupt. The thing about that and the beauty of it is what he did was when that happened, he took the 10 years to take the heat off the other 2. He said, well, if I'm going to serve the 10, then you don't have to take the other 2. And that is unheard of in a day of everyone and their sister is snitching these days. Right. So for him to do that, I want to attribute that to like his mentor, like you said, Mr. Dash, Oren Warner, those guys, myself with the GED, and he did help with the GED because I was a teacher. So, but the thing is that that's what we instilled into him. It was like, in the streets in the old days, there was honor. And, even with that honor, if you make a mistake, it's catch me if you can, but there's still honor. And so when he did that, he showed a great bit of honor, and we rode that 10 years with him. So.
Yeah, you did. You rode it with him. And for those who are watching who want to hear more about Corey's individual testimony, I'm going to have to make that a part 2, but I will post it tonight. I just need to go through and edit because we had some conversations that I was like, I don't think I want that on. But his life, he admits, he was like, well, I couldn't take Mr. Dungee with me everywhere I went. I couldn't take all of Vision Unlimited. And he even said, this killed me when we were talking. He said, Miss Dimps, I prayed before I left that night and said, Lord, let me get back home. And he never went back. Well, he didn't go back home until 10 years later. And I don't know if you heard it, and sometimes I over lawyer situations. So if y'all didn't get it, it's very unusual for conditions of one co-defendant to be applied to all. So when we came into court for his sentencing, the way Paul Howard spoke was, if one messes up, the deal's off for everybody. Everybody's going to go back to jail, and you're going to either go to trial or plead guilty, and the minimum you'll do is 10 years in prison. And Corey, when he was given opportunity to speak, he spoke up saying, please don't do that to them. It's not fair. And I was just like, that's what you're using your last words to say? I would be like, free me. I'm like the GED helper. And that courtroom was full of tears. The judge was tearing up. Yep. The prosecutor was crying. The probation officers were crying. And as Corey said, which I may get at the end of the show, he was like, you were crying. Because I asked him, why'd you even call me after you got out? He's like, because I knew you cared about me. You were crying. And at one point, I was like, let's just go to trial. I mean, let's just go to trial. He's like, no, I'm about to take my 10. Because I was like, I cannot stand by you while you're pronounced to go to prison in 10 years. And also, for those who will watch later, I asked him about, do you think one of the ways that you were able to keep your mind, because now he's out physically, but a lot of people who live in prisons, their minds are still in prison and they end up going back. And I was like, do you think the fact that you saw people like Mr. Dungee, Dash, and others who did time and now they're out doing positive work, trying to do good things, did that help you know that you could not only make it, but when you get out, you can help others? And he was like, I didn't think about it like that, but yeah, and he shared about visiting. And if you guys haven't or wouldn't know that, like, even his attitude now is so extraordinary. And I know that it was people like Ms. Sands and Mr. Dungee who helped him see that it was possible. A lot of times, you know, people think that you put kids in alternative disposition programs, that the goal is to make them an angel. You can't make someone who's been possibly through hell an angel. But if you give them experiences and know that that's not how they have to be, right, then hopefully if they find themselves falling and getting in trouble or not making it 180, that they'll be reminded, I don't have to live like this. Right. I don't have to do 10 years. This man spent most of his 20s, he turns 30 in October, most of his 20s behind bars.
Yeah. You know, and one of the things when Corey got out, he found us. And it's just an incredible, and Mr. Dungee will have to finish it because I'm going to start crying again. But
we never lost contact with him. I mean,
immediately started mentoring. Immediately started mentoring, even in terms of housing and everything, and helping to set rules for a home for other young men. An incredible young man, and just an incredible, and that's who we are. We're 24/7 support for lifetime, and that's been 10 years. And he came back to us, and of course, this grandma over here just boo-hooed when he came out. Leonard needs to take over, but. He's an incredible young man, and it doesn't mean that the program failed. He accepted responsibility, and that's what we teach, responsible decision-making, accepting the consequences of your decisions. And that's exactly Mr. Dungee, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just about accountability. You know, whatever you do, whatever the situation is, be accountable. You know, for whatever. If you're a shot caller, be accountable for those shots. You know, whatever the situation may be. But we got big plans for Corey, because really this whole thing is based on the ceasefire model, cure violence model. I don't get into a whole lot of depth about that, but just know that your good friend and mine, Mr. A. Week Johnson, and myself are starting a new venture in Atlanta, and it's going to continue the work that we've already started. And so, but Corey and all those other people that you mentioned are still around. We got big plans for Corey. He doesn't know it yet. You have to tell them that too. But yeah, and so I don't want to keep going into that, but it's just a good situation. It's good to see him out. We helped him get in the house, and he helping other kids get in the house. So I can't even explain it.
People, if you don't work in this world, you don't understand how extraordinary that is. And I think you all are extraordinary. And Leonard, I hate that choices you made put you in prison, but it reminds me that God never wasted pain. And the fact that you came out and you're very intelligent. I mean, you're working in real estate, you're an entrepreneur. You could have just I'm gonna be about my business. And when your mother's vision came past, you're like, I'm gonna invest in the next generation. And I'm like, I hate that you had to go to prison, but I'd rather that than you be the Wolf of Wall Street, just partying out of control. You're leaving a legacy behind those doors of pain. And I just want to say, I appreciate you. And Mom, thank you for not just being the beautiful, potential bougie Black woman that you are, because a lot of times we're afraid of image, right? But you're like, and I know you said it didn't happen overnight, but you're like, I'm going to invest in this. And you soon will be a nice older age, because I know y'all can't believe it, but she's semi-retired. But not only do you have children in the world, you have all these children. Corey's one of your children. Yes. And it meant a lot to him to know that there were people who were waiting for him to get out and cheering for him. And he has the tools never to go back. Right. And I told him, boy, I will knock you out. Like, you just You never,
Absolutely.
like, you have to determine in your mind every day, which he has, you know, he is going. And so I'm glad that you guys got plans for him. I'm like, you need to stay connected. It's like anything else. When I have a personal trainer, I'm less likely to go to McDonald's. But when I'm not looking at somebody, looking at me, expecting accountability, I may slip it in. But you guys are my heroes. Thank you so much for joining. Miss Sands, do you have any last words? I know Mr. Leonard has a hard break, and we have a part 2. So stay on, guys, because we have more to share. But I probably will end up splitting this up because it's going quite long. And someone said, okay, Eric. That's his wife.
That's his wife.
Eric is another extraordinary client. Well, he was never a client, but he's an extraordinary man who had experiences in incarceration. And he himself, like Mr. Dungee, is out there trying to save this next generation from what they went through. But Miss Sands, do you have any last words you want to share before?
Just never, for our young people, just never, ever, ever give up. And believe in yourself, regardless of the challenges. There's so many hopes out there who are supporting you and loving you unconditionally, and that's it. And thank you so very much for the opportunity to share. We love you, Attorney Hope.
Leonard, you got any last words?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks for having us, and remember this, Hope, that you don't have to feel sorry that I went to prison, because that was my time out when God or the universe put me in time out, and I needed that to be who I am now. So don't ever, you know what I mean? I understand, and when I'm saying that, remember this: your test is your testimony, and I'm out.
Your test is your testimony. Thank you so much. And I'm excited. I'm going to see you guys soon. I know. And I've already invited myself to maybe some going away or retirement party activities. But it's so good to see you. And shout out to Eric and all my other brothers and sisters who experienced incarceration, but it did not burn them up. They're burning up the scene, doing great things. So thank you all so much. And I'm going to bring on my next guest, who originally he was going to go first, because this dude is extraordinary. And I forgot to put up my little explanation here about extraordinary. It's an adjective, and it says beyond. Oh, that's supposed to be what? What is usually ordinary, regular, or established. I did go to law school, y'all, and I was salutatorian in high school, so I don't know what that was. That was quick typing. And so I believe everyone has parts of them that's extraordinary. But upon meeting this gentleman, I was like, either he's a little crazy or he is innocent of the charges, because I had never met someone charged with murder. You heard me. Not play murder, not manslaughter, not, somebody got hurt, felony murder while I was, doing something else. He was charged with murder, along with some other co-defendants who are his friends. And from the first time I met him, he's like, I'm not worried. I didn't do this. And like sat back in the chair. And I'm like, is this guy crazy? Okay, maybe I need to have a review for competency. Because I'm like, okay. But he was so extraordinary, not just because he was confident without being brash or irrational, but confident that justice will prevail. But he kept an upbeat attitude throughout the time I represented him. And we'll talk more about what he went through. He's here. He's been waiting in Bay. He's an entrepreneur, and he's going all over. So I don't know what he may be at work. He may be driving. He may be at home, but we're going to bring on, he's like, I forgot you called me by my government name. We're going to bring on Mr. Charles. You ready, Mr. Charles? Shake your head if you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay, I'm going to have to slim myself up too, because you done gone portrait on me. You driving?
Yeah.
You got posted up there, Charm. So you go by Charm. Your government name is Charles. So that's what I put up there. But it's fine, because you can tell my people as much or as little about yourself as you want. But how you doing?
Chilling, driving, working.
Okay. Do you have time to talk? Because I want, this is Georgia.
Yeah, my hands is on the steering wheel.
Oh, okay. Oh man, this is what's really funny is that I've had an opportunity to talk to Mr. Martin more than once since he's been released, and but this is my first time looking up at his chin. And so let me ask you, should I cut real quick back to my interview with Corey until you can get parked so we can see you?
I won't make it to my location for 30 minutes, and I don't know if you're gonna be still on here.
Okay.
I'm literally in traffic.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any way that you can put? No problem. Do you have a phone stand that you can put it up closer to your face?
No, that's why I got it down, because I don't want to hold the phone and drive.
All right.
The little thing that you hold the phone, I don't have one of those. Because I normally don't.
Well, that's fine.
I normally don't be on the phone in the car anyway.
Okay. Well, you know what? Dude was clever. So I'm gonna have to narrate probably more than I had planned to. You guys can't tell, but from just this angle, but Mr. Charles, aka Charm, he is actually super tall. Despite his tattoos, besides his tattoos, he's very handsome and he knows it. You guys saw the ad, he looked like a model. And actually he has dimples that you can't see from here. So I'm gonna pick him a little bit because I've been like Mama Bear, like, why you got so many tattoos? There we go. So Charles, we've been talking about extraordinary clients that I've represented after incarceration. So I have to start with you. Everybody saw the ad. You had been accused of murder. They end up dismissing the charges. But I want to start with just real quick. Do you remember when you and I first met? Or like an early part when we first? And before me, how many attorneys did you have?
Like 2 or 3.
And what happened to those attorneys?
I fired them.
Okay, so he got rid of these attorneys before me. So I'm just wondering, before we met, or maybe soon after we met, what was your first impressions? Be honest, and I'm not offended. This is straight talk.
My first, what, like, of you?
Yeah, impression, because you already fired 3 attorneys. Like, they're he's not happy with this one.
Yeah, I just go off energy. It's just all about how you present yourself, your energy, your vibe. I mean, you had a pure spirit. It was cool. It was welcoming.
And I know by the time, I'm sorry?
And so I said, so you got welcome, because there's a welcoming spirit. So I welcomed you in. My other attorneys just felt like blasé, whatever. Like they weren't gonna do nothing.
And I remember by the time I met you, you had been in jail for several years. I can't remember how long. I know I represented you over a year. And you reminded me that it was actually 5 years before this case, before they dismissed the a murder charge. But I just wanted to ask you, especially since you got to drive, and I'm gonna try to get to the biggest nuggets. I was sort of nervous meeting you because I hear that you were like getting rid of your attorneys. Now I'm court appointed. He didn't choose me. So you normally don't get to do that, but I guess Mr. Martin did. So when I heard that, I'm like, he's gonna be a butthole. He's gonna be rude. He up here in jail talking about who he ain't gonna represent. But you end up being exactly what your nickname is, charming. But before we get to that charm part, what do you think inside of you had this almost too cool for school? I know I'm old. Too cool for school attitude where you were like, I want to hurry up and get out of here, but I'm not worried because I didn't do this. I was just wondering, was there ever time after you were arrested that you were scared that they were going to actually I mean, you were just scared because you're in jail and they're saying stuff like you helped murder somebody?
Yeah, like the first time I sat in front of the judge and they offered me like, you want to take life? Like I was scared, but I laughed. I'm not gonna show you on weak at all. I never show anybody on weak because the weak get preyed on, and I'm not a prey.
So you laughed, but inside you were like, what? Life? And for those of you who don't know, in the state of Georgia, especially during that time, and I think it's only increased, it was like life, you wouldn't even be open for parole until like 35 years in. How old were you when you were first arrested?
What I was 20. Yeah, what 20?
So yeah, you were young. You were young.
20. Definitely.
So you stood out to me because I never met a client charged with something so strong that, and you really, in the time I represented you, never showed any fear. And I have clients who are mentally ill and they're ridiculous. They had blood on their hands, they confessed, and there was a video and they still say they're innocent. But it was almost like, you ever notice how like when people are telling the truth, they don't have to repeat it? They say it once. They don't have to come up with a big old story. And you like, no, man. You didn't even say no, man. Literally, it was almost like, so when we go into court, because you didn't have this anxiousness about you. I think I was more anxious than you were at times, because I'm like, they're saying life is all they can do. And you were like, nah, I didn't do it. And that by itself was extraordinary. Another reason why I was extraordinary is, I'll leave some of the salacious stuff at the end, is that I found out you were actually an artist and an entertainer, and you were into hip hop. And I was like, this boy got skills, and he had fans. You had fans while you in jail. I'm just like, okay. And so that was extraordinary. Even though a lot of my clients claim to be entertainers, I was like, oh, he actually is an entertainer. He actually really is. The third reason why you sort of stood out in my mind, and I won't get too deep into this because I don't know who's still connected. You're the only client I had where I had to go to manage who and how I responded depending on which woman called my office. And you would be like, did so-and-so call? Don't tell them this, but if so-and-so called, tell them to come to court. And if so, I was like, how is it that you're in jail for several years waiting a murder charge, and you got women, multiple women catering to you? And I was like, let me keep my female interns away from him, because this boy, he got something on him. And so you were memorable for a lot of reasons that were not as serious, and other reasons that were serious. And I
I'm just being me. I'm just me. I'm just me. I don't know what else to say. I don't know. You said, that's funny though, because I did tell you that you have to talk to this person like this.
I was like, I'm not your social secretary. I'm not, I'm like, it was just, you had a lot going on.
I know I'm a busy person.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that. And you know what? You already told me that maybe I can do a part 2, so I think I am going to call you in on that. There will be some time where you have a place and a moment to sit down, because although some of my comments are lighthearted and some of this memories is lighthearted, you were facing some serious stuff. And you actually reminded me a lot of stuff that I didn't remember. What was also extraordinary about you was not just you personally, but this case, because there was a video tape of the actual shooting that was involved. They showed that the guy who died was actually the one who pulled out a gun and cocked it towards people that were identified as your friends and co-defendants. So not only was there a video that showed that most likely this guy, he started it, right? So if he was shot dead, he's the one who pulled out a gun, pointed and cocked it. The video also shows you were nowhere in the vicinity or having anything to do. You didn't have a gun. You weren't in the picture. I think I argued you were like, I think dropping off a girlfriend, going to see someone or whatever. But later, all of y'all were in the same car, and we're not going to go over a bunch of history. But that was extraordinary. And it's already extraordinary that there was a video, but where was the video placed? How'd you find out there was a video?
You in court?
The video, guys, was on World Star or World Hip Hop.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, World Star Hip Hop. I was on.
It was on World Star Hip Hop.
Oh, God.
This was not a surveillance camera.
Yeah,
It was not a surveillance camera. It wasn't George Floyd and a bunch of people. Someone put it on. Somebody walking down the street was filming. And then, like, when you hear a gun cock and stuff, they like hitting the ground or trying to run or something. But like, it went viral, and it took a while to connect the viral video to the fact that's in this case. But even after we filed a motion to dismiss, once that video was discovered, the judge was like, I was going back to look at the transcript, and she was like, I don't know if you all have seen it so much that you're reading into things. And I'm like, why is it that Black men have to be Superman? You can have a video that shows that your client is not in the vicinity, that shows that the decedent cocked the gun and pointed it towards other people. And this judge still is like saying, I don't know, I need to watch it.
No, we're going to trial. We're not doing nothing. 15, 20 years. For what? What did I do?
But then there was a crucial point where the state had to admit that their case was falling down. And the judge did that famous thing that later was a haunting suggestion, because she was like, if you don't have this, we're going to make it go forward and dismiss. And we thought, okay, we're about to be done. But then during the holidays, the judge died and people were trying to recreate history. And we're arguing like, this is what the judge said she wanted to do. But I'm going to fast forward, because basically they end up dismissing the murder case, but there was a gun found. So I think everybody ended up pleading to the gun charge. And so end up having
a gun was never found. I was alleged to have a gun. That was all
right, lawyer.
I was alleged. Yeah, I learned that from you. I was alleged to have a gun. So my murder charge, what was the murder? What did I murder somebody with my hands? No, it was a shooting. So they had to put one and one together and made two. So it was a shooting. So we have to charge him with a gun because it was a shooting victim. The person that died by bullets. You can't throw a bullet in his chest. You got to use a gun. So I got charged with the gun and murder. They didn't find me. I didn't get seen on no camera doing no murder, and I've never got caught with no gun or anything.
You were not on camera at all.
At all. I don't know.
At all.
I don't know.
Well, that was some crappy stuff.
The government is not gonna let you. That's something I could tell you. I learned the hard way. My back still hurt and my knees still pop. They gonna sit you down. You're gonna drag until you tap. You think you're gonna beat them? You're not. Boy, they got something for you. And murder.
It's interesting.
And murder has no statute of limitations, so they can legally hold. As long as you charged with murder, you can legally be held for however. But they do have to trial you every 7 to 10 years.
Y'all hear this lawyer? Y'all hear that legalese coming out of his mouth? And I just saw that my other client, Corey, is at work, and he just popped up. I just saw him pop up. I may bring him on while we're talking. But so you end up being in jail for a total of 6 years, where the original charge was like you supposed to be a murderer. You get out, and one thing that you shared with me yesterday I thought was crazy was that you think that if you hadn't gone to jail, you might not be living You might have died in those years. And I was really shocked about that.
Yeah. It's crazy to say. Like, what I'm about to say is crazy, but it makes sense. But it makes sense because it's crazy, if that makes any sense. But jail saved my life.
Wow.
Oh God.
God had a plan. I was so excited when you called me.
And I think that's another reason why I was so nonchalant. Why I was locked up. Like, I know I'm coming home. I just don't know when, but I know I'm gonna make it there. I don't know when. I could always tell you, I ain't never know when I was coming home. I'd ask you that, but I knew I was going. But I knew I was coming.
You were confident that you were coming home. I felt very honored that you called me when you got out. And you may look familiar to some of my church friends because you went to church with me one time.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering, what made you call me? Because not made you call me, but I've represented hundreds, maybe probably thousands of people in my 22 years of being a lawyer. And only a few people who've served time have called me. And I got a lot of people who got long sentences, so I'm not offended. But I felt so honored that you called me. And I was just wondering, why did you call me?
Because I'm a man of my word. You told me you was a woman of your word. You told me you was going to really fight for me. You weren't going to give up, and you fought for me and give up. You did the extra. You worked. You did what you said you was going to do. And I said when I get home, I was going to take you on a steak date, but you couldn't because your husband. So I won't take on a date like that. But, the thank you date. But we went to church instead. I kept my word.
You did, man. I will always appreciate that. I'm going to fast forward. I'm going to bring Corey on just to say hey, because I know y'all have never met. I almost feel like y'all are my two sons out in the world. Corey, this is Charles, named Charm. Charm, this is Corey. Corey, we played a little bit of your interview, man.
What's going on, Charles?
And so I'm finishing up with Charles. He's stuck in traffic, but you at work. Thank you for coming on. In fact, I told the people who are watching, I'm going to have to bring Charles back on later one day in the future so he can be in one place, settled and talking. But with you, that I'm going to compile our interviews from earlier and play them because you shared a lot of good stuff. But you don't mind hanging out with me and Charles right now, do you? Because I know you may have to go back to work real quick.
No, I don't mind hanging out.
So Charles, I keep calling you Charles. Charm, you get out, you connect with your family, you're a father as well, you connect with your kids. And one of the first things I asked you, like, you doing hip hop? You're like, no, you didn't use the word manage, but you had some artists. But what I think is so cool is that you're an entrepreneur and you have this clothing line called Made, M-A-D-E, that's really like selling. You got stuff in boutiques and you got some celebrity endorsers. Don't go away, Charm. Don't go away. Tell me about that journey. Tell me about that journey about you coming up with this fashion line and the concept of Made.
Made is just a lifestyle. I live a made lifestyle. Anywhere I go, I'm going to just be made. It's a mindset too as well. But it's also an acronym for make $1 every day. It's just self-motivation. I mean, you could make $1 every day. I don't care what you do, but just make sure you make $1 every day.
And what made you want to put that on, shirts and hats, and what inspired you to do that?
Because it's bigger than me. Just like that, it's bigger than me. Everybody needs motivation, and I'm gonna just be the person to give it to you. The best way to reach through my people in the crowd is fashion. Like, everybody likes looking nice. I don't know one person that does not like looking nice. When you look nice and you get your hair cut, you feel at your best. When you put on new clothes, you have on new thing you put on, you feel at your best. So I want you to know when you have on my stuff, you're gonna feel the best. I want you to feel good. I want you to look good.
Yeah. And now you've been out for several years and you're doing this fashion line. You got some other stuff up your sleeves. And like I said, I wasn't gonna keep you on long. Thank you so much. But what, if anything, would you tell a young charm like you that who would have been like in their 19 or 20 years, and they find themselves being falsely accused of a crime? What advice, if any, would you give them?
If you didn't do it, stand on that. Point blank, period. Like I said, you might have to. Don't give them. Don't give up. Never give up. First and foremost. Secondly, if you know you did it, do what's best. If you know you ain't did it, stand on that. I mean, you ain't do it. Stand on it. Don't go pointing fingers. Don't tell on nobody. Don't do none of that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Just, you didn't do it. If you didn't do something, you can't get accused for it. The worst they could do is make you tap out. I tapped out. I had to wait, but hey, I'm still living to see another day. God don't make mistakes. Everybody's book's written already. You just got to make it to the last page.
Everybody's books is written. You just got to make it to the last page. Don't he sound like a sage, y'all? All right. I'm going to let you go, Charm. Thank you so much. His private line is called Made, and you may have to text me or something what, if any, like your handles are. I know you are, but I tried to find your clothing line IG. So what is that? How can people get Made if they wanted to buy your stuff? Because it actually is cool.
If in Atlanta, you could DM me at It Was Charm, or my clothing brand page, which is at shopmade.merch. Or if you're in the Atlanta area, I'm also in the stores called Threads ATL. I'm in a clothing store there, so you go pick up my merchandise and stuff from there too. I got a store on the way. I got my own store on the way, my own boutique store on the way. It's coming real soon.
Please. Well, I'm following you now on IG, so I'm sure I'll hear about it, because I would love to go to the grand opening. I hope you got stuff in big girl sizes, because you know you tall and slim.
I got you.
I can get a hat.
I got you.
All right, Charm. You drive safe, man. Thank you so much for being on.
I got you.
Corey!
Hey.
Man, my audience has been listening to a part of your testimony, and Miss Sands and Leonard are here. Oh, Miss Sands. Oh, I did not expect that Charm would say that about me, but yes, Miss Sands is now off the show, but she's watching. I will definitely love to connect you, because Charles is really a remarkable person. He can sometimes come off a little bit too casual, but we got your boy Corey here, and they were singing your praises, man. You gotta watch this show. It's a little long tonight, but you gotta watch this show because they were singing your praises.
Watch it. You gonna send it to me?
Well, it's available on replay. Like, so you can go to my page, like you can go to Hope Den's page and press play. It's saved. But I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you. In fact, your story is so interesting, and I'm so glad we pre-recorded that I am gonna edit a little bit and send out that, because you had some really great things that you said that I think people will be blessed by. But so you haven't been here, but we've been talking about the fact that you are extraordinary. Miss Sands says she loves you.
Hey, Miss Sands, love you too.
So proud
of
you. And Corey, you don't even know, but they got plans for you. Leonard and Miss Sands were talking about they have plans that they hope that you're able to be a part of. And I was like, yes, get him. Yes, stick and stay. I know you're at work and you have some breaks. So I am going to play the end of our time together, because you shared on the day of sentencing. And I already sort of shared with the audience that everybody was moved. And you said something that I thought was so strong. And I'm going to ask you just to share that. Like at your sentencing, when the judge was crying and the DA, he was crying and I was crying and the whole room was crying. And she told you to turn around and look and see how you're impacting people, what came across your mind at that time? Like, what did you think when you saw that at the time that you just heard you are sentenced to 10 years in prison, but the whole courtroom is crying?
Like at the time, like when I seen everybody crying and stuff, I was young and I was in the mind frame like I really didn't understand what everyone was crying for. I'm like, they don't even know me to be crying over me. All they know is armed robbery white. So like what they crying for? But like Ms. LaGrua said, I really didn't understand how many lives I impacted. But as I got older, as I sat down the road and I had time to think, it was like wow, I did impact on people's lives. And it hit me then, like that's really why they was crying.
Yeah. But you're out now, you're working. I mean, like literally, you're working right now.
Yeah.
What would you tell another young Corey, high school graduate? Maybe he also was raised with his grandma and his uncle, getting his grill, a football coach, even given opportunities, but they don't think they ain't gonna send me to prison. What would you tell that person about your experience, or something that maybe helps them understand, like take it seriously?
Really, I really don't want to tell them nothing. I want to go get them myself to show them. So
Okay.
you can tell somebody something, and they'll just hear it'll go in one ear and go out the other. Some people learn hands on. Some people learn through different techniques and stuff. But if I had to tell somebody something, if I had to tell them something, it would be like, no matter how hard times get in life, it's not the end. Like it may be tough now, but God got a plan at the end of it. Like you got to stay dedicated. You got to stay determined, and you got to have discipline because that discipline is what's going to separate you from making the right decision versus making the wrong decision. And
Wow.
like, you just got to stay strong. Like, ain't no money, no amount of money is worth the years that are come behind it in prison. It's not. It's not.
It's not worth it. You have too much value. You have too much value. And man, because of this show and us connecting, and I've used it as an excuse to basically connect with you and talk, I'm just really proud of you too. Miss Sands is proud of you. Miss Dungee is proud of you. I know your grandma's proud of you. She was happy to see you. Your uncle and the people who may not even tell you all the time, they're sitting in awe. And I know that you have all the tools to not just survive. Right now, it may feel like, okay, you're doing what you got to do to get through. But you are one day going to, I believe you're going to make money off your pain. You know, I don't know if you're going to write, draw, speak at schools. I see you helping and blessing other people. I think you will do that as a part of whatever helps make you great in the future. And I just hope to be able to be young enough and be able to go sit in the audience and be like, yes, Corey, that's right, Corey. Tell that story, Corey. And like I was telling you, I couldn't see that movie about the Central Park Five when they see us, because the clients who impacted me like you did, I was like, God, let him get through his 10 years and keep his sound mind. So that person I met at 19 who made a stupid mistake would not be that person at 40 or 50 going back and forth in the prison system. So I'm proud of you. And I'm so glad you're able to come on at the end. And like I told my audience, I'm going to show a little bit more of your interview. Maybe I'll show the rest of it, because I'll say goodbye now so y'all can watch or don't watch. But it was a really impactful interview, and I know we had some technological problems, so I may just forward it a little bit to the end. But is there anything else you may want to share, or even say to Miss Sands or Mr. Dungee or your parents or anything? And if not, she said she wished Mr. Dungee could have come back on. He stayed on to 6:30.
Yeah. I really just want to thank y'all. Like that support that y'all gave me, like it really helped me. Like down that road, it's very easy to lose yourself. Like you get the feeling like you don't have nobody. It's very easy to go insane down there. But the support I got from y'all, like I really appreciate that. I love y'all for that. Like for never giving up on me. You could have just did your job and like, all right, I'm gonna get paid whether he go down the road or if he get out. I'm gonna get my money. You could have did that, but you went above and beyond. Like that second chance, that pretrial that you got me. Like that's how I got introduced to Visions Unlimited. Like I messed that up. You feel what I'm saying? Being young and dumb. But like you went out your way to get that for me, and like you didn't have to do that, and I really appreciate that. Like that mattered a lot. It's just like the experience with you, with business and all that. Like that really motivated me down that road to do better. Like I knew I was in the midst of the environment, but like I knew it wasn't over. It was never over with. Like and I when I first went, I had a long. My max out date was a long time from there, but at the end of the day, like I got a max out date, and being surrounded with around so many people that don't know when they're going home, like that helped me stay strong too. It might not been today, but it was gonna happen one day. Though it might have been not this month. It might have been a lot of months from now, but it happened, and like that kept me strong. I thank y'all for everything y'all have done and are doing for me. I really appreciate that.
Well, let me tell you, Corey, it was a pleasure. My name is a really nice name for your first daughter. But I know we are going to meet each other in person sometime in the near future. And like I said, I know I'm going to sit in the audience and hear you give your testimony. This was just practice. All that practice interview we did, that's just practice. And I know you got to go back to work, but thank you. I'm so glad you joined. I'm so glad you guys have watched. Even if you're watching on the replay, comment below. Do you have a Cash App, Corey? What's your Cash App?
What is my Cash App? Money sign. It's money sign NGB10. Like money sign never going back 10. That's what the NGB stands for. So it's money sign NGB10.
Okay, hold on. Cash App. Okay, I'm trying to type this, but I can't see. What is it? Money sign never in going back 10?
Yeah, money sign NGB10.
The number 10?
Yeah. It's just the initials for never going back. It's NGB.
You know what?
I switched to NGB because I refuse to go back. Like I work like a slave before I go do something crazy again. No problem.
You guys, and when it comes up, does it say your whole name, Corey White?
No, I say mentally capable.
Mentally capable. Support Corey, aka I pray that someone blesses you, more than someone blesses you, because he didn't ask me to do this. He probably embarrassed that I am doing it. He did not. I mean, when I was talking to you earlier, just because, you know, there's so many people out there who think that getting income the wrong way is justifiable. And I just think it's so awesome that you learned that lesson through Hard Knocks. And I was like, oh, I wish I just had a good amount of money just to like throw at you. And it was like, get his Cash App. So you guys, if y'all want to like really, really, really like surprise and like do a whole more like new thing we've never done before, give to the Cash App in $NGB10, never going back 10. That's mentally capable, aka Corey. Y'all, I mean, bless him. Bless him. I know people are gonna give.
I really appreciate it.
He is worth the investment, you guys. He's worth the investment. And I'm gonna get churchy right now. Some of y'all got friends and family who's in prison. Some of y'all got people up on charges. They need a breakthrough. Invest in someone else staying out. So bless him. Bless him. He's good for it. He's good for it. Bless him. Bless him. Come on now, bless him. And so when you come back in a few months or a few years, you're like, oh, I got like money to buy some shoes. You have money to buy shoes, but they're gonna bless you. They're gonna surprise you. So I know you gotta go. I don't know if you can stay on while I say goodbye, but yes, you guys, bless him. And then check out your boy Charles, aka Charm, with his Made Fashion. Support him. Threads Atlanta, listen out for him. His IG. Oh, let me put his IG up here. IG is It Was Charm. It was Charm. IG, It Was Charm. That's and that is, his name is Charm McFly, I think is what he goes by. I'm not sure. Charm McFly. Uh-oh. Lord, I can't see. He goes by Charm. Check out his merchandise. Support him. We got to support each other, right? We want them not only to stay on the straight and narrow, but we want, just as there's things that stresses them and that could make them, not you guys, but can bring pressure on anybody. We want them to be blessed for doing the right thing. Oh, let us see it. That's the uniform. Put your mask on.
Yeah, got to have the sleeves on. I'm gonna see. I brought that plastic get hot. That plastic
Hey man,
get hot.
Honest money is good money, and I see you walking in wealthy places. I'm gonna stop prophesying to you, but people prayed for you way before you were born, and you're just being blessed because of it, man. So stay on the strong side, the straight and narrow, and I'll talk to you soon. I'm gonna see you in person one day soon. I really feel that. You're right. Have a good one, man. Yes.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, man. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm gonna have to get off. We have gone over an hour and a half, but I'm so seriously blessed by the guests who've come on. And even though it didn't go in the order that I had planned, I planned Charm's life story first, or at least his incarceration, since he was falsely accused. And here we have a young man, Corey, who may have been a part of what he was accused of, but he had a chance to avoid prison, and he messed up. This is a reunion of, basically an appointed attorney with clients who didn't get to choose that person, but we get to choose to connect now. And I really do believe the work with Vision Unlimited in Atlanta needs to be all over the country. And I really believe people like Corey and Charles, aka Charm, are the kings and priests and congressmen and presidents that are in jail right now who need support and help. And we have to stop thinking about incarcerated people who get out as ex-cons. They are returning citizens, and they're extraordinary, each and every one of them, regardless of if they're afraid or if they did it or they didn't do it. They are worthy of some type of value bestowed upon them. Even for those who need to spend the rest of their life in prison, they are still valuable. They're someone's son, they're someone's cousin. And even behind bars, there are opportunities to become a better person. So, man, I needed this reunion probably more than they did. And I'm really blessed by what they shared. And I don't know, I feel like I should pray. That's how I feel I should end this time. So thank you for those who stayed on, and join us next week for our next ReJUNeion episode. God, I thank you for this time. And thank you for this opportunity. I can feel so overwhelmed because sometimes it just seems like that we're losing like generations of young Black men who could be somebody's husband, they're somebody's brother, they're potentially someone's great employer or scientist or fashion designer, and they're wasting away behind prisons because of bad decisions, some because of a rush to judgment, others maybe because of institutionalized racism, and others because of their own malice. But God, my heart breaks because I see them as people. I see them as potential. And I'm just so grateful that I had opportunity to meet not just Corey and Charles, but to meet the scores of people I've met in criminal defense, both in private cases and in public defense and conflict defense. And Lord, I just pray, God, that you would keep those two gentlemen and others who are returning citizens and they're working their butt off. Both of the gentlemen, one driving to a place and the other working, they're industrious and they're smart. And I pray for all the Corys and Charms out there. And Lord, I pray for Miss Sands and Leonard Dungee and the Vision Unlimited and all the anti-violence, anti-prison, anti-crime organizations out there that are literally laying their lives down, laying and delaying retirement, putting their business out there, facing odds that are so supposedly insurmountable, but they see over the horizon and said, this one, not this one, this young man, this young woman, not this one. And even if they find themselves having to let go and let those people matriculate through a criminal justice system that's designed to destroy, I thank you that you've given them hearts to stay with people, even in the most horrible circumstances of prison. So like Corey, and even like Charm, that when they get out, they have a support system that's cheering them on for success. I think this is God's work. This is not the dark side. And I think rehabilitation and correction in behavior and life is something that is a heart situation that really only you can do it. So God, I thank you for the opportunity to reunite and reconnect. I feel refreshed. And I pray for those who have people behind bars and people with pending charges, God, and from the worst and most heinous to the most slight violation. God, I pray that you would first touch the victims of the cases. There are people who have been devastated by crime in their communities. And I pray for restoration. And one thing I've noticed and seen is that often the victim is the defendant is the victim, and that the community itself is starving for restoration. So I pray, God, for restorative justice where people could be accountable, and some of them will do time in prison, and for victims to be made whole, and for the government to understand the difference between punishment and rehabilitation and justice versus injustice. So I thank you, God, for the opportunity to be reminded tonight that it is possible. It takes a village, and it doesn't end just at a sentence. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. God bless you guys. God bless you. Thank you for joining us.
Like, I don't know, like, a lot of time when people go down the road, like, they paint it as the bad guy. And, like, just people knowing you've been down the road, they look at you like, oh, no, we ain't even gonna waste our time with him. But the fact that people still here for me and still love me for who I am, and after I don't been through what I've been through, like, that's really amazing. Like, I really love that. I really do.
And do you think, and thinking back, and maybe never thought about this, when you end up going to prison, and we'll talk about that a little bit next, was there a part of you that would think about the fact that you met people who survived it, and not just survived it, but now is living a totally different life and helping other people? Like, say, Mr. Dash, who had, I mean, he was a gang leader. I think he started the gang. I don't understand. He has a really seedy past, but he was determined to try to keep young Black men out of prison. Do you think the fact that you met some people, even if you end up going in prison, who had changed their life even after serving time, did that give you some hope that that didn't have to be the end all for you, although you had to go to prison?
Like, at the time, like, when I was in visits and stuff, like, I wouldn't say it gave me hope at the time, because, like, I ain't even gonna lie, like, I didn't think I was going down the road. I didn't think I was going down that
What did
road
you
because,
think was
like,
going to happen? You just thought somewhere.
Yeah, I thought, nah, they gonna give me some probation. They gonna give me the first offender program or something. Like, I didn't think I was going.
First of all, because you called me, and then this is really funny. So,
You was just froze for a long time, so I don't know what you said. If you said anything, you were froze.
you know what? You know what this means, right? You're gonna have to come on my show. I'm gonna just let you end us out because it's almost time. You gotta work. You're a working man. He's now back in Metro Atlanta. You know, he is out. I felt really awesome that you called me. I cried after you called me. I was just like, I'm so glad he called me. And I just wanted to know, what was one of the first things you did when you got out?
First thing I did, I like to eat. So